In the previous episode, we explored Mercury and how it translates energy into deliberate action, kind of, if you train it. And today we're focusing on Venus, which is the magnetic energy that attracts what your sun needs to thrive. Understanding your Venus allows you to cultivate environments, relationships, and resources that energize your life rather than deplete it. It's the Awake Space Astrology podcast, and we are doing the new series, Using Your Astrology. I'm Laurie Rivers, your host, here to help you with some inspiration to get those aspirations out into the world. Well, so far, you guys have let me know that you're really liking this series, and it's going to evolve over time. You know, I don't mind teaching more classical astrology. That's one of the ways I give people a foundation. In fact, I had my young mentee, Eli, was asking me why I taught one standard thing and then would fill in the blanks with my own. And I said, well, I know people may choose to go study outside of what I teach. And so I'm going to tell you, this is what else is out in the world. Here's the techniques that are used. When it comes to interpretation, here's what I do. And I do that just because I'm not trying to create a cult. However, I know what I do works. So I'm excited to be able to share this with you. Venus is a really important planet. Okay. And in fact, it's important to me personally because as a young astrologer, coming from cultural anthropology, when I would look at the interpretations, I'd be like, this is so biased and full of cultural bias and cognitive bias, because you'd get this little glib, Venus is love and money, it's romance, it's hearts and flowers, but it didn't have any meaning or depth. And that didn't make any sense to me. And I was just like, you know what? This is misogyny in a handbasket, because it was, I grew up in a very different world than a lot of people. Well, I don't know. They're trying to take us back to it. Don't worry your little head. Thinking isn't good for you, young lady. As women, we were supposed to be the fairer sex and softer and not the vital warriors. And they would use Venus as an excuse. And yet, if you went back to ancient Rome, Venus had a hell of a lot of temples, and not all of them were about sex. Some of them were about victory and war. So we have, especially through the 19th and 20th centuries, really done ourselves a disservice on how we interpret Venus and femininity in general, and the moon, which we'll talk about tomorrow. Venus is literally a magnet, and magnets can attract or they can repel. And we're going to talk about that today here at the Awake Space podcast. So whether we're driving to work, whether we're folding laundry, taking the kids to school, doing our mundane reports, wondering how we're going to make it through the end of the year, whatever we're doing together, we're going to do it together. So get your tea, get your coffee, get your matcha, get your Red Bull, get your H2O, because I'm going to take you on a heck of a ride and give you some exercises that will help you really tune in to what enlivens and depletes you, but this time through Venus. We're going to look at Venus as the magnetic force. It is a magnet. It's not just about charm or romance. It's your system's energy magnet. Venus attracts or repels resources, experiences, people, and opportunities in alignment with your sun's vitality. So when your sun is energized and Venus is conscious, you naturally draw resources and situations that support your growth. You minimize energy drains and avoid misaligned commitments. But let's talk about alignment for a second. So a lot of times we think alignment means we are in perfection, we are lined up in virtue, we're one with the cosmos. And yeah, it can mean that. You can also align with negativity. You can align, it's kind of like, imagine you're having a conversation with Yoda, and Yoda is like, don't give in to the dark side. Don't give in to your anger. You can align into that too, because all alignment means is you're lined up. Now, sometimes we are a little misaligned. Abraham Hicks describes that as a split vibration. So sometimes we have a push me, pull you going on. I really want this, but I don't think I can have it. I really want this, but everybody's being mean to me. I really want this, but that guy there annoys the heck out of me and I can't concentrate. That would be when we're misaligned. When we're aligned, we're laser focused. And that can happen if we look at duality in a good way or a bad way. Because if you've ever been so mad you can't shake it and you're just like, that's it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to hit this person, or I'm going to throw something, or I'm going to break this thing because so and so gave it to me, or whatever. We've all had those moments, right? Venus is going to bring to us that which we align to, and it will energize us if our needs are being met, and we will be depleted if our needs aren't. So when you think about consumerism or industrial capitalism and late stage capitalism, a lot of times we get what we want, but it's not what we need. And it does things like pollute our environment, give us more clutter around the house, make us feel financially depleted. Okay. But we're looking for that connection and that fix, when in actuality, we want to belong. We want to have better connections with other people. Even the people who say, I'm a loner. You're a loner because you haven't learned how to align into having meaningful connections. It doesn't mean you can't learn these, right? And your sun will be depleted even though you're getting what you want, because it's not really what you want, because you're operating out of authenticity. Okay, you're not in your authenticity. You're operating from what the marketing team at whatever brand told you to do. That's why we want to be deliberate with our Mercury. We gotta be deliberate in our consciousness. Somebody asked a question on one of the podcast platforms about soul contracts and our free will. And I thought that was a really good question. And when it comes to what I'm teaching, I'm going to say soul contracts have a minimal effect to us using our free will, because we can connect with people and learn at all levels of energy. I do not believe we are destined to experience trauma. We may have agreed to come into the family we came into with a reasonable expectation of challenge. And yet every single person involved in that family had an opportunity to operate at a different level. We still have the opportunity to be deliberate. All right. What I've created in my teachings in using your astrology took many years to compile. And I found a lot of information from many, 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 many different sources beyond my own epiphanies, the downloads I had, and my own experience. Okay. So there's been information around for millennia when you look at spiritual teachings that we can have more agency. We are not doomed to behave in any one specific way. Do soul contracts exist? Yes, I think they're talked about in very overly simplistic terms, just to let you know. All right. So when your sun is depleted and Venus and Mercury are a little more unconscious, you might be more stressed out. You might be more distracted, and relationships that can often make you feel good might actually drain you. So Venus is the bridge between your needs and the world around you, translating vitality into attraction. And we're going to do some practical observations so you can pay attention to this. But I want you to understand, like, if you have kids or a fur baby, okay, 90% of the time, that sleeping angel, that beautiful child, those giggles, the smell right after bath time, the sticky little hands, you could just bite those cheeks or bite their ears, right? But if you're tired, you're sick, you've had a long week, you're out of balance, you're out of kilter, you might be in like therapy and growing and healing and things. Those same laughter and giggles can go right through your brain, right? You can get touched out. Even though you love this being with all of your body and soul, you can be touched out. So it's not about the individual person. It's about where your energy levels are. And so we're going to do a little practical observation. Now, if you're driving And yes, we all will get perfect parking. I realized I forgot to say that in the introduction. Everybody's getting perfect parking. If you're driving, don't do this until you're stationary. Speaking of stationary, get a journal, get a notebook, and you're going to want to write down your observations. One of the keys to using this information is learning to be a really good observer. You're not judging anyone. You're not judging yourself. You're not making moral assignments. You're just noticing, oh, when I'm doing this, this happens. When I'm doing that, that happens. Take the judgments out. That alone will help you train your Mercury in such great ways. I'm going to give us a little chance to go grab notebooks, get a pen, pencil. It's better if you do it by hand than on a notebook or an electronic device. But if you need that accommodation for yourself, go ahead. We'll be right back with the practical observations. So we want to observe kind of our Venusian energy at work in our daily life. This is where you're going to pay attention throughout your day. Give it a shot. And I'd love to hear how these observation goes. If you could write them in the comments in Patreon, where you can watch the video. It's public. You don't even have to sign up for free. You don't have to give me your email if you don't want to. But if you need the subtitles, come on over to patreon.com/the awake space. Or if you're watching it on or listening, because I'm only putting the videos on Patreon. But if you're listening in Spotify, YouTube's been annoying me. Okay. They keep putting it up as private. I'm not trying to not let you see stuff on YouTube. It's just they're being poopy. Okay. So anyway, but if you're there and you're listening to this, leave me a comment about what you noticed and what any ahas you got. I love to hear about your ahas. What did you get out of it? So we want to notice what environments, people, or activities increase your vitality. Okay. So there might be that one person you see. It could be somebody at a food cart. It could be a friend at work. It could be a friend at school. It could be just somebody you drive by every day and you wave to, but you just kind of look forward to them and you notice when they're not there. So pay attention to who's increasing your vitality. That could be somebody who's bringing a smile to your face. Doesn't mean you're super high vibe. It just means you're lifted. You're uplifted a little bit. So you want to notice that and you want to record that. Like, who's lighting your candle? And it can be those beautiful babies and their shining faces, right? And your fur baby. It could be the rose bush. It could be getting to do a certain assignment at work or school. Any activities like going to the gym or taking a walk or getting out on a trail, collecting rocks, doing crochet and knitting or baking or going shopping, whatever it is, go ahead and write that out. And then identify what situations, this is your next step, identify situations that deplete energy or create tension. Now, notice I didn't say name names because just like the example I gave a little bit earlier, those same cherubic beings that are so angelic while they're sleeping, and you just think, my God, they're the most amazing things in the world. If you're not feeling great, those same beings are like, why did I do this? Have children or get a dog, they said. It'll be fulfilling, they said. It can really wear on you, even though you love them and you're working on your consciousness, right? So look at the situations and look at the tension patterns that come in your body, because a lot of times we only notice them once they get bad. Like you get that from looking at your phone too much or being on the computer too much. There's something that happens before you notice it. It might be you're sitting tense in front of the computer or on the phone, doom scrolling or whatever. Pay attention. Write those things down. Observing patterns of your behavior and your experience is going to help you be more deliberate. In your journal, you want to note any patterns of attraction and repulsion over time, because this is letting you know if Venus is being a magnet to attract or repel. So if you're starting to feel drained, Venus is letting Mercury know that your needs aren't being met. What would meet that need? Sometimes it's not socially acceptable to leave the party, or sometimes it's not socially acceptable to pack your bags and leave your children. Don't do that. That happened to Gen Xers and it didn't work out well. They were left alone a lot. Don't do that. But yet when you're feeling really energized after spending time on creative projects, making Christmas presents or spending quality time with the family, and you're just in a really good mood, you know you're making core memories. That's when everything is lining up and your needs are being met. Venus gives the signal to Mercury. Wow, this is satisfying. Mercury sends it to the sun. Venus is satisfied. And the sun's like, yeah, that floats my boat. I'm energized. Okay. So that's your observation. You can take a minute and write down the instructions. We're going to do one more segment, which gives you a practical exercise. And this is another writing exercise. So if you're driving, you can come back to this and do it once you're stationary. Please don't do these things while driving. And we'll go through the practical documentation and observation and kind of like a self-coaching process. Because one of the things about being a coach that I love the most is a coach is never responsible for the client's outcomes. The client is responsible. The coach is the guide on the side. And it is through the asking of powerful questions that draws out those answers that are inside of you that you didn't really realize you had. Because I don't know about you, first time somebody said the answers are all inside of you, I was like, then why am I talking to you? If I had the answer, I wouldn't be asking you, right? But it really is about asking the right questions because the answers are inside of you, but you got to pull them out. And so we're going to be doing some really powerful question in the next segment that will help you get a handle on what attracts and repels to increase or deplete your vitality. Now, remember, knowledge isn't power unless you know how to use it. And that's why I created classes like Healing the Money Wound using astrology, Finding Your Psychic using astrology, Making Moves by the Moon. It's for entrepreneurs where they gauge the lunar transits to help plan and maximize their time and energy and resources, or Living by Luna, which is the original process I created. And that book's coming out soon with a journal. I'm very excited. The second edition's coming out. I wrote the first in 2019. And it's helped a lot of people because it helps you learn an observation process, but also divine and describe the answers for you using a proven method and framework. Okay, so nobody's telling you what to believe or what your experience is, but we give you like the scaffolding to help build what you're trying to build in your life, which is super cool. And I really love practical exercises. So I think you're going to like this one. So you're going to pause and really reflect on your current life environment. All right. So find a quiet space and maybe, 10 minutes or so. All right. So if you can sit and just really think about your life, where you live, your kitchen, your bathroom, the living room, the people who live there with you, or the people who come visit you, or your neighbors, or your friend across town, your work environment. What's your office like? How's the lighting? What's the shared fridge like? What do you eat for lunch and dinner? What do you do for breakfast? What's your time off look like? What do your days off look like? Really sit down and visualize it. You can write it out even. But as you're sitting and really looking at life, when you're thinking about those things and you're meditating on it, what is attracting vitality in that scenario? And what is detracting or depleting you? Like, what is pushing away what you really want? Is it how you're spending your time? Is it, for some people, your environment plays a huge role. For other people, it's more mental and relationship based. But sometimes it is the flow of how life goes on in the house. If you've ever had a kitchen you don't like, it's hard to cook in a kitchen you don't like. If things are too crowded and there's too many people in one space, or maybe it's too big and you feel like kind of a little lost all by yourself there. So really think about what is attracting, what floats your boat and what enlivens you, and where you're being depleted because a need isn't being met. And I'm not just talking about getting a ring on your finger. Okay. I know everybody's been trained they need that relationship. If you're not cool with you, no externalized relationship is going to work. It's just not. Okay. So this is about meeting your needs yourself so you can be in partnership with others, whether it's friends, romantic, contractual, like clients, etc. So write out what is enlivening and depleting you. And how is that magnetic force drawing things in or pushing it away? Give yourself a minute to do that. And then after you do that, you can pause the audio, all right, or the video. Once you got that down, then list one thing to invite consciously in that will help enliven you. One thing. So looking at the scope of life, what's going on, what is one thing you can invite in? Now, here's an example. I keep hearing people say, and these are people younger than me, all right? I'm not good at tech. I'm really bad at tech. I don't understand it. Okay, you don't have to understand how your car works to drive it either. So if you're not good at tech, saying it over and over isn't going to make you better at it, and it's going to stress you out, which stress, guess what, depletes our vitality. So you can invite yourself to say, I'm not good at it yet. I'm capable of learning. I had an 80-some-year-old neighbor when I was a teenager go learn how to code, do computer code, so she had something to talk to her grandson about. You're never too old, okay? So that's just an example, all right? All right. So one thing you want to invite in, and so it could just be a thought, like, I'm not good at this yet. I don't know how to do that yet. I'm good at learning. I'm going to invite in the next step in learning what I need to know. Okay. And then what's one thing you can set boundaries around? Instead of saying yes reflexively, like somebody says, hey, can you do this? And you're like, yes, I used to do that. A good friend of mine taught me, let me come back to you on that. Let me come back to you on that. Gives you a break so that you're not immediately saying yes. So you can kind of feel into it. Do I really want to do it? Am I doing it so they don't hate me? That's not a good reason. Because if somebody's your friend and they'd hate you because you wouldn't do something for them, they're not a very good friend. Okay. So it's very, very, very important to be deliberate in how you invite things. So setting boundaries, a couple of good things can be, let me check my calendar. Let me get back to you. I can't do it this month. Check in with me next month. That way you're not committing. Okay. And it's not about other people respecting your boundaries. It's about you respecting your boundaries. It's your energy levels you're protecting. Other people don't have to respect that. You do. You have to enforce that with yourself. Get that done. People aren't going to push the boundaries too much. All right. Now you're going to take one deliberate action that aligns with what nourishes your sun. Take one deliberate action that aligns with what nourishes your sun. So your Venus really knows what the sun needs. Okay, so Venus is gonna know. All right. If you took my Healing the Money One class, then you already have, first of all, you have the workbook with you. You've got the guidebook. But understanding what really floats your boat. So it could be having a sweet treat. It could be having quiet time to yourself. It could be an Epsom salts bath or a salt scrub. or it could be sitting in a coffee shop or going to an art gallery or taking a pottery class, going to a craft store, going to the gym, watching sports, playing video games, whatever. It's going to be something that enlivens you. It could even be household chores. Like some people, like I love cooking and washing dishes. I don't have a problem with that. I hate folding laundry. Okay. My mom loves it. So she hates cooking. It's a great arrangement. What nurtures or depletes you? You want to take a deliberate action with something you know nurtures and nourishes your sun because it's going to give you a stabilized or sustaining energy level. Okay. So just you're observing now. Remember that Venus is your internal compass for magnetic alignment, cultivating a life that feeds vitality. Coming up next, in the next segment, I'm going to talk about why Venus matters. Let's talk about why Venus matters. And again, when I was a young student, I was questioning the very glib interpretations I was seeing when it came to Venus, because I knew Venus had to be more important than that. It's closer to the sun. There is some astronomy involved in astrology. Now, I had the great benefit in university of being forced to take a quantum mechanics theory class. I didn't want to take the class, but my professor wouldn't let me out of it. If you're a patron, you probably know the story. So I had a deep understanding of energy from that level, that everything kind of exists all at once, and we experience life in physical bodies in a dense reality. So that looks like fantasy land when we have a table we can tap on. We don't notice all of the particles and subparticles operating all at the same time and resonating with each other across the universe. But it would matter the proximity of the planets in their orbits. And in fact, finding out that Mercury borrows Venus's gravity so it can spin on its axis. Finding that out a couple of years ago just further entrenched my belief this is important. I think frameworks are great. It bothers me when people harken back to ancient information as being more valid, especially if they're literalists, because coming from cultural anthropology, I know that culture is fluid. It evolves and shapes over time. And people weren't more wise necessarily back in the Hellenistic times. They really weren't, or in Chaldea. They did some things that weren't very wise. So I see it as we stand on the shoulders of giants, and that we need to, as our awareness grows, we need to interpret within a framework, but allowing for the new knowledge, right? So when it came to Venus, and I was like, so it's a magnet. I found Joanne Wickenberg, and I found some of her articles online as a student when I lived overseas. And I thought, that's exactly what I've been thinking. And I had an opportunity to take a workshop, my first workshop with her at Norwalk. And I think it was 2000, but it might have been 2001. I wanted to lay at her feet and bow, because she is one of the most awarded astrologers, academic astrologers. And when I was coming up in astrology, there were very few female academics. Okay, it was a very male-dominated field. I know people wouldn't believe that because everybody's like, astrology girlies. That was not the case. Still really isn't when you get into the academics or the mundane. There's still probably more guys than girls. But Joanne was pushing for better interpretations. And she was a student of Dane Rudyard. Rudyard was an amazing metaphysician of the 20th century. His work is very, very profound, and I'd read a lot of that too. When I found out she was a student of Dane Rudyard, I was like over the moon. So Venus is an important component of our chart beyond the superficial, beyond our wants, our desires. And it's kind of like when you look at the law of attraction, there's a lot of people who teach it in a really shallow way. instead of understanding that if you can deconstruct from social cultural programming, or at least recognize it and reshape your thoughts, reframe, you can attract in the things that you really need. We often only look at the money, the car, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the them friend. And that's to our detriment because that's social programming. Not that we don't need money in the world we live in. I mean, everybody's got bills to pay. It's what we do with that that matters in giving us a sustaining, satisfying life. It's not about the stuff. The stuff is temporary. And it might bring us joy or a little happiness. But ultimately, if we can get our energy levels on an even keel, we are less likely to blow our energy and our resources on things that give us temporary satisfaction. And we can be more, again, sustaining. So I was so happy to have collaboration on that. And she long ago, I was about, I don't know, like 34, 33, 34. And Joanne said, Laura, you need to write the books. And I thought she was just being nice because I was still working on myself and I was still healing. And it wasn't until about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago that I went, I don't think she was being nice. The books are coming, I promise. Healing the Money Wound using astrology is one of those. And I'm working on refreshing that for use outside of my classes, but that probably isn't going to be done till 2026. So I'll be offering the class again because it's all about rehabilitating your Venus from our social cultural programming, our family patterns. And yes, we incorporate trading our Mercury in that as well. So if you've taken the class, leave some comments to let people know how that helped you. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about why Venus matters. Most people experience attraction and repulsion reactively. Okay. So you're operating on reflex. You're in a default setting. You're not operating deliberately. So when we're acting on a default setting, it's influenced by habit, culture, external expectations, wanting people to be proud of us, needing to get picked, chosen, needing to have a title so we get respect, or having credentials so people think we know what we're talking about, things like that. And I'm not saying those things can't be useful, but when that's what's driving us, we're not being deliberate. Understanding that Venus is empowering you to be intentional in what you allow into your life helps you preserve your energy for growth and deliberate action. So Venus and Mercury work hand in hand in being deliberate. Venus is the lever of abundance. The more conscious, the more you work with your Mercury, the more conscious you're going to be in your attraction patterns, the more you support your sun and your moon and Mars in functioning optimally. So in our next episode, we're going to be doing the moon, our sensing, feeling, and experiencing the world through our energy. It is the lens of the sun in our day-to-day physical life because the moon doesn't have light of its own. It's reflecting the light of the sun. We're just coming out of a full moon this time, and it was glorious. We had so many pictures of the moon in the Patreon. Absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful, but it's still not the moon's light. And that's why we want to use our modern understanding. In esoteric astrology, the moon plays a vital role as the lens for shaping our physical understanding. So the moon is the sensing, feeling aspect of our perceptions, and it communicates with Mercury, it communicates with Venus. Let go of what you think you know about astrology right now, because this is going to help shift your perceptions so you can be more deliberate, understand how precious you are and how valuable you are, so that you can have a more sustaining. We're going to talk again tomorrow. We're going to talk about the moon. And on Friday evening, patrons will get their 1-hour companion episode that helps you map your internal systems. I'm Laurie Rivers. I want to thank you for joining me here at the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. If you want to check out this video with the captions, you can head over to the Patreon, and it's public. It's free. All right. You don't even have to join. But if you wanted to join as a brand new member, you save 50% on annual subscriptions for the $15 level and up. And that gives you the magazine with all of the predictions, the spooky, accurate horoscopes that help you manage through the energy, the full moon ritual, and the new moon setting intention guide, plus the article on how I came up with this methodology. I want to really thank you for listening. I appreciate it.